That's weird. The wipers stopped. Hey. Copy. Hi, a minute 30. Okay, I'll talk very slowly. Yeah, they're coming to us out of the break. So maybe after the break. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I got a minute and a half, but I don't think I'm going to get into the traffic portion of it. I appreciate it, though. Not a good sign when they brought the gurney back to the ambulance. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, are they changing their mind again? What? Well, we haven't got the official word that it's fatal, but it definitely looks that way. I can tell you this is all happening out here and coming to an end on the off-ramp of the southbound 5, East Los Angeles, and that's going to be the Olympic/Downey off-ramp. Definitely going to be closed for some time, and like we've been talking about all morning, this started as a pursuit and then ended in shots fired by the officers and the suspect. Now we can show you a little bit more, trying to stay away from the paramedics still working on that suspect on the off-ramp there, but you can kind of see that LAPD vehicle with that damage. Now, both those vehicles had front-end damage, so that leads me to believe that somebody made a U-turn on this off-ramp and then was trying to make their way back onto the off-ramp, onto the freeway, when that collision occurred. We did see somebody in that passenger seat. We watched as they were negotiating with that person, and eventually he did climb out of that car on his own and landed on the ground. They took him into custody. Then officers from LAPD made their way back over to the car, and this person was outside of the vehicle between the Ivy and the car. They removed him from there, and now they are. You can see the paramedics have walked away. So I'm venturing to say that that person has passed away. Not confirmed as of yet. Again, this all happening out here in East Los Angeles. That off ramp on the southbound 5, Downey Olympic, going to be closed for this investigation. No officers injured as we understand it, but one suspect apparently died in this officer-involved shooting. I'm Sue up in Skyvox. Back to you ladies in the studio. No, you're welcome. Thank you. Okay. We're going to do some more. Doing some more. You know what? We're going to do the live shot. I just want to see the position. If they move. Did they remove him? They did. Oh, no. They covered him. All right. Top of the 11, KCal. And we're also top of the 11 for us, apparently, as well. Figures I didn't grab my notes. I have no idea what that Tahoe has to do with this. Yeah. Maybe. That's crazy. Oh, okay, cool. Right. 1:30. Copy. Copy, Lisa. And I believe that was Mallory. Copy. The body's covered. I'm not going to zoom in on it, but it might be in one of the shots. But not on purpose. Copy. Well, it is very static now, but you can see the number of officers that are down here. It does appear that the driver, the suspect of that vehicle that was in pursuit, did pass away, apparently from injuries. and now we're going to say, I'm not sure if they definitely was gunshots, but not sure if that was the suspect or officers. This started all as a pursuit in the LA area, made its way over to East Los Angeles. That is going to be the off-ramp for the Olympic Downey Boulevard area in East Los Angeles. This is going to be off of the southbound 5. You can see the number of LAPD officers down there. That is the vehicle they were pursuing right there. Somewhere along the way, that vehicle apparently made a U-turn on that off-ramp trying to get back onto the 5, and that's when that collision happened with that LAPD vehicle that you see right there. Now, after that, it is unclear what was going on. These officers very, very busy apparently, and there were shots fired. We understood, or we heard, that there was somebody outside of the vehicle, possibly between the car and the Ivy. We didn't see that person until officers retrieved the body just moments ago, but there was a passenger in that vehicle alive and talking to the officers, communicating back and forth, injured but definitely still talking. At some point, that passenger got out of the vehicle on his own, basically by climbing out the window and falling onto the ground. They had paramedics out here. Those paramedics from the LA County Fire Department took that suspect to the hospital. Then officers, still a little bit of a standoff. They made a second approach to that vehicle, and that's where they retrieved the body of the driver that apparently passed away from gunshots. Right now, though, the southbound 5 open, oddly enough. The off-ramp definitely closed. Some of the streets out here as well will be closed for all of this LAPD activity. And, of course, this being an officer-involved shooting, they're going to have plenty of officers out here and homicide detectives. They have to do an investigation. But, again, this all unfolding this morning here in the East LA area. And just a side note, the Skyfox was definitely the first helicopter, first camera on scene. I'm Stu up at Skyfox, sending it back to you all in the studio. Simon Desk, what would you like the helicopter to do besides within reason? Oh, the license plate. They're going to want the license plate. Yeah, get some of this stuff while we're waiting. There's a ground camera. I'm sure they got shots of it. Can get that. All right, Simon Desk, maybe. No, it's not. It's not a temporary. Oscar Kilo. I don't know. Is that a C or a 3? Oscar Kilo 37 uniform 09. Oscar Kilo 3. Maybe that's not a. Maybe that's a Z. Is that a 7? Let's try to read. Can we? Yeah. And get the glare off of there. Uniform 09. 37 uniform 09. And it's not an Oscar, it's a D. Delta Kilo 37 uniform 09. You guys got that? DK 37 uniform 09. That's it. I don't know what.
On the bodies of the women themselves. that further told the stories of these victims and what had actually happened to them.
Skybox, Simon Dass, what would you like us to do?
That ultimately was put together by the task force that proved to be the defendant's undoing and led to the pleas of guilt in today's court proceeding. And it is in this way that these murders were solved. And while we in law enforcement, as well as our Suffolk County citizens, mourn the loss of these victims, we are also grateful to them and to their families, because without them, this defendant would have never been brought to justice and would still be walking amongst us. And he would still be portraying himself as that same harmless father next door, instead of what he is, a convicted murderer. Ultimately, this case is really about these victims and their stories. It is not about this defendant. And I speak for everyone in law enforcement, and when I say we are honored and thankful for being able to have played a small role in obtaining a small measure of justice for these families. For decades, this case stood out as a painful scar on the face of Suffolk County law enforcement, Suffolk County government, the citizens of Suffolk County, and the victims' families as well. However, with the defendant's pleas of guilt today, it means that for the first time since the deaths of these women, we can turn to all of these same people and say, Rex Heuermann will be held responsible for the 1993 murder of Sandra Castilla, the 1996 murder of Karen Vergata, the 2000 murder of Valerie Mack, the 2003 murder of Jessica Taylor, the 2007 murder of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, the 2009 murder of Melissa Barthelemy, the June 2009 murder of Megan Waterman, and the September 2010 murder of Ms. Costello. Despite this tragedy, there's a lot of different emotions, and I guess the word for today, despite the tragedy, despite all those emotions, is thankfulness. We are thankful. We have a lot to be thankful for, despite these emotions. First and foremost, we are thankful for the victims and the victims' families who told their stories, their loved ones' stories, and defended their loved ones' legacies. Without them, we would have never truly gotten to know those victims. My start in this case occurred before I took office. A homicide detective with the Suffolk County PD, Pat Portella, gave my phone number to Melissa and Amanda. Melissa is, of course, Maureen Brainerd Barnes' sister, and Amanda is Melissa Barthelemy's sister. And they spoke with me. We had a really good phone conversation. And during that phone conversation, I heard the pain and frustration in their voices. They wanted answers. They wanted closure. I told them that we were going to do things differently. It was going to be a new manner of doing things. We were going to form a task force, and we were going to bring all of the talents of all these people standing here to bear, and we were going to work together. We were going to not use this case as a political football to be kicked into the news stream on slow days or whenever it suited the political leader's purpose. We were going to be quiet. We were going to pretend as though it was business as usual in Suffolk County. And the reason why we were going to do that was because we knew what we were doing. We were playing to an audience of one. And that one person, of course, was the murderer. We wanted to lure that individual into a false sense of security. We wanted him to think he got away with this. And that was exactly what we did. And the reason why we wanted to do that is because when we solved this case and we had those arrest warrants and executed those search warrants, we wanted more evidence, and that's exactly what we got. So we were thankful for that. We were thankful we were able to bring this case to a close, but it started, our inspiration was these victims and their families. But those families were so much more to us. Through them, we truly got to know these victims. When we started, the victims were nothing but names on a blotter, black and white, writing on investigative reports. But once we spoke to the victims, they provided us with the color of these women, and we got to know them as the wonderful mothers, sisters, friends, and daughters that they were. And that inspired us even more to close this case, to come to a resolution. So again, first and foremost, we are thankful for those families. And I just want to individually, mention all of the families. The Brainerd Barnes family, I already spoke with Melissa, but I want to thank Melissa and her husband, Chris, and their children. Marie, who is Maureen's mom, Nicolette and Dylan, who are Maureen's two children. We want to thank them for their support, not only of Maureen, but for our investigation as well. And we want to say, on behalf of Suffolk County, we're sorry. The Bartholomew family, Amanda, who's Melissa's sister, Lynn, her mom, and Jeff, Lynn's partner. We want to thank them as well. When this case started, it started with the grand. Well, it didn't start, but the charging started with the grand jury, and Amanda, Lynn, and Melissa came down and helped us with the grand jury. And I remember when Lynn came in, it was about a 2-day proceeding, and when Lynn first walked in, she appeared a certain way, and by the end of that second day, she looked completely different. You could see that having forced her to relive this, you could see the sadness in her face and in her eyes, and we're sorry for that. But without their cooperation, we wouldn't be here today. So to Amanda, Lynn, Jeff, and everyone in the Bartholomew family, we want to say thank you, and we want to say we're sorry. To the Waterman family, we have Megan's aunt, Liz, and we have her daughter, Lily. We want to thank them. We didn't get to know them until after the indictment, but again, the way that they stood by Megan and the way they supported us, we want to say to them, thank you, and we're sorry. To Amber Costello and her family, specifically Amber's sister Kim, we want to say thank you, and again, thank you for the support, and again, we're sorry for the loss of Amber. Valerie Mack, we met shortly before the indictment. We met Ed and Joanne Mack. Ed and Joanne Mack were foster parents and then the adopted parents of Valerie, and they gave Valerie the only happy home she ever knew, and really the only support she probably ever knew in her life. Meeting with them, they're incredibly special people. They're heroes. We also got to know Valerie's sister Angela and her son Aaron. Again, equally wonderful people. So to them, we want to say thank you, and we're sorry. Jessica Taylor, we got to know Jessica's mom, Liz, after the indictment. Prior to the indictment, we got to know Jessica's cousin, Jasmine. And right after the initial indictment of the first 3 victims, Jasmine came to us on behalf of Liz and said, please help us. Please find out what happened to Jessica. And at that time, we didn't have enough. And we said, look, we're going to work, and we're going to try to get there, and we're going to work as hard as we can. Please trust us. And, Jasmine, on behalf of Liz, said they would do just that. So to Jasmine and Liz, I want to say thank you. And again, we're sorry. To the Vergata family, Karen Vergata, we recently went, I did, I know members of the Suffolk County PD had already spoken to the family, but my team recently went and we saw Eric and Gary, who were Karen's sons. Gary's not here today, but we got to meet Gary, and I know Gary's watching, so we want to say hello to Gary. Eric's here. We want to thank Eric. And again, we want to thank you and tell them how much we admire them for supporting their mom and for supporting us. And again, we want to say we're sorry. On behalf of all of Suffolk County, we're sorry for Karen's passing. The Castilla family, Cassandra Castilla, we had the opportunity, shortly before the indictment to meet with Ariel, who's the husband of Ruth, and Ruth is Sandra's sister. Again, wonderful people who really stood by and supported Sandra. So we want to thank them for that. We want to thank them for their support of our investigation. And on behalf of Suffolk County, we want to tell them we're sorry. We're sorry. So that's the family. Again, they inspired us. They're the reason why we do what we do. You know, today was a very special day for us in law enforcement because it gave us the opportunity to turn to these victims and their families and say, listen, you know, we told you we were going to work really hard. We told you we were going to do everything we can to bring closure to you. And that's why we work in law enforcement. And, you know, we were able to do that to a small measure today. So we're happy for that. And again, so thankful for them. You know, in addition to our victims' families, we have our law enforcement family. And, you know, this case was, you know, brought home by a task force that brought to bear the talents of a number of really great investigators from a lot of really great agencies. And again, so thankful to be able to have worked with so many talented people. It's not really, you know, some people will say, well, you know, this person solved Gilgo or that person solved Gilgo. That's not it at all. It was so many different pieces from so many different people, starting back in 1993 and culminating all the way through, you know, 2021. So again, and really beyond, actually. So again, so thankful for the great work. First and foremost, I have to thank my chief investigator, Rich Zacharies. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've had the benefit of working with truly the best investigators in the country and in the world. Rich is the finest investigator I've ever worked for and worked with. I do sometimes feel as though I work for him. But he, you know, he was the architect of our grand jury. He put together our grand jury. And I think there's, you know, whether it's an attorney or an investigator, I think there are very few people who could have done that logistically. And so to Rich, I want to say thank you. To our detective investigators, our analysts, again, all great. And I'm gonna mention a lot of people, and it's gonna, you know, because you know, it's not you know, exciting to mention a lot of people, but they deserve mention. So I'm going to mention them. We're going to go through everyone, but not everyone, but a lot of people. We're going to talk about our phone experts, Justin Doolittle and John Primiano. Unbelievable work in this case and so many others. Our analysts, Kaylee Homer, Aaron Hansen. Unbelievable work combing through this evidence, this miles of evidence. And that's just to name a few. They're indicative of so many more. Our law enforcement partners, you know, we had our DA people, our PD, our FBI, our New York State Police, our Suffolk County Sheriff's Office, our core people, Rory Forrestal, a DI. I hired Rory. He was supposed to come in and help us with our child abuse section, but you know, he got waylaid in here, and he worked like heck for us and did a great job. We're so thankful for Rory. For Suffolk County PD, our homicide guys who are still with the task force today, Chris Kalvaka and Scott Aquilina, great individuals, great investigators. Thank you so much, Chris, Scott. We had Jimmy Watson, who worked with us, no longer with us. He's in Nassau. FBI agent Craig Mateo. Special Agent Craig Mateo. Everybody's young, I guess, compared to me, but I see him as a young guy, really talented agent, really great guy, really, really helpful. Investigator Tiffany Attai with the State Police. Again, you know, along with Rory, Aaron, and Kaylee, really, you know, plunged into the evidence in this case and really, really helped us out. She was also the one who did the infamous avalanche search. So we want to thank Tiffany for all of the work and all the work that they all did. We have a number of retired task force and former law enforcement officers with us today. We invited them, and you know, I saw John Santoro, I saw Donna Giordano, Pat Albergo, just to name a few. And we wanted to invite those retired members, because again, you know, there was a lot of talk about this case, a lot of talk about, you know, no one cared about the women, you know, who were murdered in this case. That nothing could be further from the truth. You know, I'll talk about Pat Alberga. He worked Jessica Taylor's case. He retired. When we had brought enough evidence to bring that case together, we called Pat. And he came to help us testify. Actually, he and Donna Giordano testified for us. But when Pat Albergo, who's retired, came in, he sort of walked through the door like a kid, you know, like a little kid walking down the stairs during Christmas. And he's like, "Why am I here?" And I'm like, "Because we're going to charge this case." He was thrilled, and that attitude is indicative of every single one of all these agencies. So grateful to work with all of these people, both past and present. Our ADAs, Nick Santamartino, Andrew Lee, Michelle Haddad, Larry Opizzo, God help them, right? They get to know what I'm really like. And so they were with us right from the very beginning, through the grand jury and through today. Great job by them. I want to thank them. My chief assistant, Alan Bodie, you know, he really, along with Rich and I, we really thought a lot about how we were going to go forward with this case and planned a lot of things, you know, from the grand jury. And he was really helpful with that. And also, you know, he ran the office while I was running around pretending to be a lawyer. Our discovery expediters, our analysts, our paralegals, everyone. And that's just us. So now, you know, we come to the Suffolk County PD, and, you know, I'll talk a lot about Suffolk County PD was, you know, with us every step of the way. Our police commissioner Catalina, our chief of department Bill Dougherty, our chief detective Sean Barron, a whole host of other people are with us today. We have our Suffolk County sheriff Errol Toulon with us, as well as Undersheriff Kevin Heavey, as well as Undersheriff John Becker. We really want to thank those two agencies. We want to thank Errol Toulon, and we want to thank Police Commissioner Catalina. They're two phenomenal partners. I can say this about Suffolk County and Suffolk County citizens when it comes to Police Commissioner Catalina and Sheriff Toulon. You are all in wonderful company. In addition, you know, with regard to our Sheriff's Department, they provided logistics and traffic and sex trafficking related intel throughout our interviews, helped us to identify a lot of potential interviews of inmates and other people who have been sex trafficked. So we want to thank Suffolk County Sheriff for that. With regard, we also have the FBI here. We have Special Agent in Charge Michael Raffa, who's the FBI New York Criminal Division. So Special Agent in Charge Raffa is in charge of the criminal division of the FBI in New York State. We want to thank Michael for coming in. We want to thank Supervisory Senior Resident Agent Don Osbacher, who's been with us from the very beginning. We want to thank them for lending us their expertise, and more importantly, their people. You know, the cell phone analysis that we all heard about, that was done by the CAST, or cellular. The FBI CAST stands for Cellular Analysis Survey Team, and specifically Special Agents Eric Perry and Mike Sabrick. Really unbelievable work by them. Eric, you know, he provided the drive time records, so those boxes, those areas of interest in Manhattan and in Massapequa Park. You know, that was developed because in 2011, Eric Perry drove with equipment through every single neighborhood and extensively mapped the cell phone coverage in those areas and allowed us with specificity to be able to develop these areas of interest. You know, that had to be done in 2011. The landscape changed, the cell sites changed, after Superstorm Sandy, the geography changed. So, we went back to 2011, and that work that Eric did, and just phenomenal. So we want to thank the FBI. We want to thank Eric Perry and Mike Sabrick. They both created maps for us to use in the grand jury. They testified in the grand jury, as well as John Primiano from my office with the help of Justin Doolittle, and just great work. With regard to forensics in this case, I think I'd said earlier that IgG, investigative genetic genealogy, did not play a role in this case. I was wrong. I had forgotten that IgG was used to identify victim Valerie Mack prior to my involvement in the case. So I want to thank the FBI and Lori Giordano for that. They also, with us, helped to identify Karen Vergata. So again, thank you. FBI, they provided surveillance of the defendant, both in the city and on Long Island, and their surveillance team. I was nervous. I had never met these guys. I had worked for them, worked with them as a federal prosecutor, but that was a high risk, high reward thing. If they get made, everything comes down. If they get detected, but they weren't detected. Not only did they follow the defendant, but they recovered the abandonment samples. So we want to thank them. Suffolk County PD, they recovered DNA from the defendant's house. We want to thank the homicide squad for that. And again, working together, we were able to really develop that DNA evidence. So we want to thank them. Also, we provided, the FBI provided a searchable account, digitalized this entire file for us. So we want to thank the FBI for that. New York State Police. Today we have Major Chris Casal, who's the troop commander of Troop L. We have Captain Chris Jean, who works in Troop L as well. Again, they provided Tiffany Atai to our task force, who was integral to our success. They provided assistance to search warrants, of all the search warrants with regard to this case and all the various locations. They were on the scene with our Suffolk County Police Department gathering evidence. They transported evidence from the house to Suffolk County property, along again with Suffolk County PD. The avalanche truck, they transported from South Carolina to our lab. There was a Ram Charger from Pennsylvania that was associated with the Sandra Castilla case. State troopers took that from Pennsylvania, brought it to our lab. We were able to develop evidence linking that truck to the murder of Karen Vergata. We want to thank them. They provided us with K-9 units along with the NYPD, Suffolk County PD. I want to thank all of those agencies. I want to thank Nassau for helping us with the search warrant. I want to thank Nassau County DA's office for helping us with the prosecution of the weapons case. Our Suffolk County Crime Lab, we want to thank them. Tremendous work. I particularly, is Clyde here? Where's Clyde? Clyde, raise your hand. Where's Clyde? All right, Clyde's all the way in the back as usual, hiding. So Clyde was the hair analyst in this case. He collected hairs from all the victims in this case, save for Jessica Taylor. And he pushed the PD and he pushed our office to send certain hairs out for mitochondrial and then later nuclear DNA testing. And when we started this case, he was working with Nick Santomartino in my office, and he was recalling with great specificity certain hairs of interest that he thought were really going to bear fruit. And I was talking to Nick, and I was saying, does this guy really, was he this meticulous? Is he this sure? And so Nick said, sit down with him, sit down with Clyde. And we sat down with Clyde, and, to go to a crime scene, in the 2000s and not have the capability to get nuclear DNA, but yet to be so precise and exact in gathering evidence, cataloging the evidence, safeguarding the evidence, and then being able to advocate for its use. Without Clyde, we probably wouldn't have gotten that evidence. So, Clyde's retired now, but we really want to thank Clyde. Bob Jenna, he collected hairs on the Castilla case. We recovered 2 hair. He was a former chief of Suffolk County Crime Lab. He's retired. He collected 2 hairs on Sandra Castilla. Did a great job, similar to Clyde. Don Doler, the former chief, he was the chief of the lab when we started this. Great job. We want to thank him. Connie Dinkle is the current chief of the lab, and she did a great job and continues to do a great job. We want to thank them. Bob Bauman, Helen Wong, Liz Sepulveda, Kerry Anito, Craig Hamer. All of these forensic scientists did a fantastic job, and we want to thank them. Again, they were in the House with our law enforcement partners, gathering this evidence meticulously, precisely, and without. This. I was thinking about this. This isn't a cast of hundreds. When you look at when you bring all this together, it's a cast of thousands. So we want to thank all of those individuals. Office of Chief Medical Examiner, City of New York, Brad Adams, Mark Desire, and Neha Desai. Brad Adams was the anthropologist. He identified the Gilgo 4, and he was the one who urged investigators to go back after the discovery of Melissa Barthelemy, which resulted in the discovery of the 3 other victims known as the Gilgo 4. Mark Desire is the assistant director of biology of the lab. He was our liaison. He made all of his people available to us. Ms. Desai, she testified for us in the grand jury. Her DNA analysis led to the identification of the Gilgo Beach 4. Again, she testified in the grand jury. A fantastic job. Our outside experts, Mitotyping Technologies, Gloria Dimmick and Jenna Manges. Gloria testified first in the grand jury. Fantastic scientist, fantastic person. Astria Forensic, Dr. Ed Green, Dr. Christina Valencia, Kelly Harkins Kincaid. Those scientists with Astria are at the very top of their field, and they did something revolutionary in this case, and they've set the bar high going forward, and we're going to be able to utilize this technology going forward to solve a great many cases. So we want to thank Astrea Forensics, and I want to tell you, if you think you're smart, you should spend a week with Dr. Green, and then suddenly you realize maybe you're not as smart as you think you are. At least that's the sense I got after spending time with all those great scientists. NYPD, again, they helped us with the cadaver search in April of 2025. We had individuals from their TARU unit testify in the grand jury with regard to phone calls made by the defendant. They helped us to attain records, missing person records involving in this case, spanning back years and years. Again, at a drop of a hat, even though it wasn't their case, they came in and helped us. Scarborough Police Department, with regard to Megan Waterman. The Megan Waterman case came in as a missing person case, and it went across the desk of a detective, Don Blatchford, who's here with us today. And Don, gathered the evidence and really did everything he could to try to locate Megan. And when the trail took him to Suffolk County, he didn't stop. He continued to help us in our investigation. He brought the Waterman family to Long Island for interviews and for court proceedings. He testified in the grand jury, and he's had a long, illustrious career in Maine. He's going to retire, but he held off his retirement to see this case through. And again, I talked about the Suffolk County PD guys who cared about these victims. Don Blatchford is another individual who cares about these victims, like all of the people in law enforcement. So we want to thank them. United States Secret Service, with the massive digital evidence in this case and their forensic science division, all of the massive amount of digital evidence, they helped us process it. We had their forensic science division, we recovered a Bounty paper towel off of the crime scene of Megan Waterman. They processed that, and they compared that to the same Bounty towel that we recovered in the home of the defendant. They matched, and this was a memento that we argued the defendant kept. Was a key would have been a key piece of evidence. So we want to thank the Secret Service for that. The telephone carriers, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, Nextel, and AT&T. Again, phone records spanning back to 1993. We've got to get those records and evidence. Again, Zacharias was